Hello, this is BBC News. I'm Ben Bland. Our top stories. Farewell to the man known as the Mooch. After just 10 days in the job, President Trump fires his Director of Communications, Anthony Scaramucci. Paris looks certain to host the 2024 Summer Olympic Games, the third time the city has had the honour. Venezuela's president is accused of undermining democracy as the US imposes direct sanctions on Nicolas Maduro.
Hello, I'm Sally Bundock with the business stories. So can BP profit in a world awash with cheap oil? The fossil fuel giant releases its latest results. We're going to tell you all the details. And downgraded, Toshiba's set to be removed from Tokyo's main stock board because of its financial problems.
Hello and welcome to BBC News. Hired and fired in just 10 days, Anthony Scaramucci has been sacked as White House Communications Director by Donald Trump. He was dismissed shortly after President Trump swore in a new Chief of Staff, the retired General John Kelly, who's expected to bring more discipline to running the White House. Mr. Scaramucci had been criticised for a crude verbal tirade aimed at his colleagues. Here's our Washington reporter, Suzanne Chiampo.
Tonight, breaking news, forced out. After just 11 days on the job at the White House.
Game of Thrones, House of Cards, pick your political drama. Washington thrown into a frenzy after the newly minted, smooth-talking White House Communications Director is sacked.
So I'm going to be very brief.
Anthony Scaramucci took to the podium 10 days ago for the first and last time. He came in guns blazing, promising to flip the script and shake up the White House. And he did. Although his eye was on getting rid of then White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, it was beleaguered Press Secretary Sean Spicer who was the first to go, resigning in protest at the man called Mooch. But then, a bit of foreshadowing.
You know, one of the things I cannot stand about this town is the backstabbing that goes on here, okay? Where I grew up, in the neighborhood I'm from, we're front stabbers.
The proud New Yorker and self-proclaimed outsider took it too far, launching into a tirade of obscenities to a journalist, accidentally on the record, forgetting the rules of reporting. Reince resigned. Scaramucci seemed to have won, reporting directly to the president. But his victory, short-lived. A new sheriff was in town, General John Kelly, the no-nonsense Secretary of Homeland Security brought in to bring order to the West Wing. His request? A source tells me, Scaramucci has to go. Kelly's wish, the president's command. After attending the swearing-in ceremony, the Mooch was escorted off the premises.
Donald Trump has been in office for nearly 6 months, but his presidency has been plagued by chaos and controversy, from multiple investigations into his campaign's contacts with Russia to constant staffing shakeups in the White House. But with a 4-star general at the helm now, the administration is hoping that there will be smoother sailing going forward. Suzanne Chiampo, BBC News, Washington.
Let's take a look now at some other stories making the news this hour. More than 480 suspects go on trial in Turkey, later accused of taking part in last year's military coup attempt. They're accused of running the coup bid in July 2016. 7 of the accused are still unaccounted for, including the chief suspect. At least 40 of them face life imprisonment if they're found guilty. Pakistan's parliament is set to meet to elect a new interim prime minister. The Supreme Court disqualified Nawaz Sharif from the position after an investigation into corruption allegations against his family. The ex-oil minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi has been nominated as interim prime minister. A man has been left with facial injuries after 2 people on a moped threw an unknown liquid at him in central London. Police said the 47-year-old man was attacked in Knightsbridge. He's been taken to hospital, but his condition is not yet known. We now know the hosts for the next 3 Summer Olympics after Paris and Los Angeles struck a deal with the International Olympic Committee. Now the order will go Tokyo, Paris and then Los Angeles. Both Paris and LA had wanted to host in 2024, but the IOC helped set the order with an offer of financial help for an extra offer of financial help for Los Angeles, as Greg Dawson reports.
It is often proclaimed as the greatest show on earth. To host the Olympic Games is considered a privilege, but it's an expensive one.
Paris, the city of lights. And the city of
Paris campaigned hard for the 2024 Games, but this success has been helped by the number of cities that dropped out. One by one, Rome, Budapest and Hamburg all withdrew, fearful of costs and a lack of public support. That left just one major rival.
Follow the sun to a city poised on the edge of tomorrow.
Pitching to host the Olympics for a third time, LA wanted to bring the Summer Games back to the US for the first time since 1996. With most of its infrastructure already built, it boasted it could host the Games tomorrow, but now they've confirmed they're willing to wait.
In 2028, we're bringing the Games back to LA, one of the great capitals of this Olympic movement, a city that has always been a Games changer and will be again in 2028.
In exchange for its patience, LA will get a financial sweetener from the International Olympic Committee, extra funding for an extended planning period.
We can build that legacy right now instead of waiting till the Olympics are over. Simply put, what we're able to negotiate, this deal was too good to pass up.
This may be an unusual way for host cities to be confirmed. The IOC is expected to rubber stamp the announcement in a few weeks. But Paris won't care how it's done. After several failed bids, this decision guarantees the Games will return to the city exactly a century since they were last held there.
See you in Paris 2024.
Greg Dawson, BBC News.
Right, time now to talk oil, to talk BP in particular. Sally's here.
Thank you very much, Ben. Yes, it is the turn of BP, one of the world's biggest oil producers, to release its latest set of results in the next few hours. Now, most believe the numbers will be a strong indicator of how the industry is doing in a world where $50 oil price has now become the new normal. Now, analysts are expecting the company will report a profit in excess of $600 million. That's in the second quarter of the year. Now, that doesn't sound that impressive, but actually when you compare it to the year before, we're looking at a big leap up from that massive loss, $1.4 billion worth of losses in the same time, 2016. It's still a long way away, though, when you compare to its rival Shell, which made $3.6 billion during the same period. And one of the reasons why BP is not doing as well as Shell is because BP is likely to announce a $750 million write-down. To you and me, that's a loss, basically, and that's for a gas project in Angola that BP is deemed to be no longer commercially viable. Why? Well, it's probably down to the fact that the price of oil is at around half the $100 plus level that it was experiencing way back in 2014. This illustrates really well the massive slide in the price of oil, and that's squeezing the balance sheets and forcing the likes of BP to spend money only where it can deliver big returns. So we'll be getting an expert view on BP. Also, we will talk you through the ongoing trouble surrounding Japan's ailing electronics giant Toshiba. Its shares were demoted to the second tier of the Tokyo Stock Exchange today. Now, Toshiba, originally known for its consumer electronics products, has faced a series of difficulties. Its problems became to a head in January this year when it became clear its US nuclear unit Westinghouse was in financial trouble. So we'll be going to our Asia Business Hub for the latest on Toshiba. And there's been a split in the Bitcoin community, apparently. It's set to create a new incompatible version of the cryptocurrency today. A group of insiders is unhappy with existing plans to speed up transaction time. So they're planning to offer existing investors a matching amount of a new virtual asset called Bitcoin Cash, like we need another one, which could put pressure on the value of original Bitcoins. Can that become more confusing for you? Let's have a look at markets very quickly to just give you a sense of how things are going today. We've got Hong Kong up, as you can see, also Japan. We've still got the price of oil headed higher today, so Brent above $52 a barrel, and that's really helping a lot of the oil majors and oil stocks. So we'll talk more about oil and BP in about 20 minutes. I'll see you then.
OK, we look forward to it. Sally, thank you very much. Venezuela is looking increasingly isolated, facing widespread international condemnation for this weekend's vote, which could give President Maduro sweeping new powers. Hundreds of people have died in months of anti-government protests. Opposition parties boycotted the ballot, claiming it was rigged. The US government has now imposed direct sanctions on President Maduro, accusing him of being a dictator. Mr. Maduro claimed that showed Mr. Trump's, quote, desperation and hate. From Caracas, the BBC's Katie Watson.
For President Maduro, this was a big win. State TV ran his victory speech at length. But for the millions of people who boycotted the vote, it was a hollow victory, if that. This morning, Caracas felt like a normal city, people getting back to work after a difficult weekend. Agustin has been managing this taxi rank for 17 years. He says people here are fed up with food shortages and spiralling inflation. He didn't want to be identified, but he said he voted out of fear. I had to vote, he tells me, worried about rumours that the government would remove his subsidised food if he didn't. The late Hugo Chavez is still an icon here, his face a constant reminder that he was the leader who started Venezuela's socialist revolution. But high oil prices helped support him. With an economy now in crisis, President Maduro is losing friends both at home and abroad, not least in the US. President Trump called him a dictator and slapped sanctions on him. President Maduro, though, was defiant.
The government of the Emperor Donald Trump has taken decisions against me as president. These decisions show his weakness, his desperation and his hate. They show the qualities of a madman who is Emperor of the United States.
Hector Rodriguez is a rising figure in the government and the man who led the campaign for the new assembly. He, like Maduro, blames the opposition for the violence of the past few months, but says foreign powers have meddled in Venezuela too.
We've said before that the problems of Venezuela are Venezuela's alone. It's for our people to choose what happens in their country.
But that's the problem. Millions of people boycotted this vote. President Maduro said turnout was 8 million, but many doubt this figure and accuse the government of voter fraud.
They want to show they are powerful, but the only thing they have is fear, is repression, and is violence. And when one government has only repression, fear, and violence, it's very weak.
But as the political wrangling continues, people try and live their lives as best they can. The government's hailed this as a triumph for peace, as the only way to move the country forward. But with so much anger and so much uncertainty about where Venezuela is headed, for many, the vote has only made things worse. This country's seen 4 months of violent confrontations. 17-year-old Neomar Landa was killed in June during a protest. Every day he used to head to the streets. Now his mother tells me she's doing the same. For me, the best justice for Neomar and for everyone who's died is to make sure we achieve what we're asking for, she says, for the government to go. The family says fear isn't something they think about. It's about ensuring his memory lives on. Katie Watson, BBC News in Caracas.
You're watching BBC News. Stay with us. Still to come. Dispensing vital medical advice from thousands of miles away. The Afghan doctor who now lives in Britain but is still helping patients back home.
The US space agency NASA has ordered an investigation after confirmation today that astronauts were cleared to fly while drunk.
The last foot patrol in South Armagh, once an everyday part of the soldiers' lot, drudgery and danger, now no more, after almost 4 decades.
If one is on one's own in a private house, not doing any harm to anyone, I don't really see why all these people should wander in and say you're doing something wrong.
6 rare white lion cubs are on the prowl at Worcestershire Park, and already they've been met with a roar of approval from visitors.
They're lovely, yeah, really sweet. Yeah, they were cute.
Hello, this is BBC News. I'm Ben Bland. The latest headlines this hour. President Trump has fired his Director of Communications, Anthony Scaramucci, after just 10 days in the job. Paris looks almost certain to host the Summer Olympics in 2024 after Los Angeles agreed to organise the Games 4 years later. Now, when Wahid Arian was a young boy growing up in Afghanistan, he witnessed the suffering of war. Many years later, he's now an emergency medic living in the northwest of England and using virtual reality to help today's victims of violence in his homeland. His telemedicine system allows doctors in war zones to get help from specialists in the West. Our World Affairs editor John Simpson reports.
We hear plenty of depressing stories about Afghanistan, but this isn't one of them. Quite the opposite, in fact. Afghanistan has one of the lowest standards of medical care in the world. The doctors often aren't very highly trained and their equipment is pretty basic. But they can contact Dr. Wahid Arian. An Afghan who qualified as a doctor in Britain, and he can give them detailed medical advice using social media. From his home in Chester, he takes messages day and night. He calls it telemedicine.
They don't have the up-to-date technologies, they don't have the cutting-edge expertise, they don't have advanced evidence-based medicine. So they need any expertise or any advice that's more world-class here. That's very useful for them. So I'll take the arrow and we place it along...
Now Wahid Arian and his team are developing new ways of showing doctors there what to do.
It went very well. We discussed a medical case, we solved the problem. It was a live medical case in one of the hospitals in Kabul, Afghanistan. And using augmented reality, we discussed it and we managed the problem.
As a boy in the 1980s, Wahid had to escape from the Russians who'd invaded his country. He and his family were lucky to survive. When civil war flared up in Afghanistan, his parents sent him on his own to Britain. He was 15 and didn't speak much English, yet within 4 years he was studying medicine at Cambridge. And he became passionate about helping people in the country of his birth.
I'd seen so much suffering in my childhood, and that suffering was still very vivid in my memory. And I wanted to see if I could help in any way alleviate that suffering from many people that were in a similar position to mine as a child.
Wahid doesn't get much time with his family in Chester. He's taken leave of absence to develop his telemedicine ideas, but in order to pay the bills, he has to work every weekend as an A&E doctor.
Yes, he is away a lot, and it can be hard and it can be lonely at times when you're on your own and you're seeing all the other families out. But on the other side, I know that he's doing amazing things for humanity. He's going to be saving thousands of lives, so I look at the positive.
We've come a long way in just 2 years, and we're helping in places that have no other support. And this is so important. Lives are at stake, and we can help save those lives.
Wahid Arian has survived a lot. Helping others in Afghanistan to survive is, he says, his therapy. John Simpson, BBC News.
More needs to be done to stop women feeling under pressure to wear high heels, according to the most thorough review of scientific studies into the shoes. Researchers at the University of Aberdeen examined research into the physical damage that wearing high heels can cause, as well as the social and cultural aspects surrounding their wear. Let's get some sport now, and World Athletics bosses have unanimously approved a recommendation to continue Russia's suspension from the sport for its state-sponsored doping. The World Championships start in London on Friday, and the IAAF say the Russians haven't made enough progress in their anti-doping fight to merit being reinstated. Its athletics team was barred from last year's Olympics and Paralympics. They'll also miss the World Championships, although 19 Russians will compete in London as independent athletes.
We've seen progress, and yes, some of that, on some occasions, that progress has been quicker than on other occasions, and it's tended to speed up a little bit when there's been a focus normally around the major championships. So it's not that there isn't any progress, but the progress we want has to culminate in a meeting of that criterion. It's clear, it's unambiguous.
Now already, one of its biggest stars has pulled out of the championships just days before it begins. The 800-metre Olympic and world champion, David Rudisha, has injured a thigh muscle. The 28-year-old Kenyan also holds the world record, set in the same stadium in 2012, although his form this year hasn't been as good. Cricket, and Moeen Ali took the first Test hat-trick at the Oval to win the 100th men's Test at the ground. Ali spun the hosts to victory and took the final 3 wickets to complete a 239-run win for England over South Africa. England now have a 2-1 series lead, with the 4th and final Test starting on Friday at Old Trafford.
I think the way we played was brilliant. I looked down the side and we got a number of different match winners throughout. So I think if we can set a game up and get in a position of strength early, then we generally find ways of getting across the line. So I think it's really important that we continue to look to do that. But the most important thing for me was that we responded positively after last week. It was obviously a very tough week for us, but it just shows the character of the guys in the dressing room.
That first day or second day, that session, that evening session was the hardest I've batted against seniors. It was extremely tough conditions, and a lot of credit has to go to England the way they bowled. If you compare, I think, us in day 1 and day 2, there wasn't many freebies from them in that time. So they bowled really well, and that's why they put us under so much pressure.
Now, they're all for a bit of duck diving, goofy footing and smacking the lip. No, not terms that are familiar to me either, but these people are the best in the world at it amongst the surf in Mexico. The first event of the annual World Surfing League has been taking place in Puerto Escondido, which surfers have been seen riding 20 to 25-foot waves. The massive waves are both challenging and extremely hazardous in the wrong hands. Or should that be feet? Kai Lenny from Hawaii took the checkered flag with Australia and Britain close behind. The playwright and actor Sam Shepard has died at the age of 73. According to his family, he passed away at his home in Kentucky from complications caused by motor neuron disease. In a long career, he won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama and was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. The BBC's Tim Allman looks back at his life and work.
So when do we go? Well, how about tomorrow morning? I'll be there.
If you wanted rugged good looks combined with a certain enigmatic charm, Sam Shepard was your man. Here he is playing test pilot Chuck Yeager in The Right Stuff in 1983, a performance that earned him an Academy Award nomination.
You'd never catch me.
I believe I will.
He appeared in dozens of films, starring opposite Dolly Parton in Steel Magnolias.
I feel sorry for him, you know. I mean, especially Jackson. Losing Shelby like that.
And here in Blackthorn, a fictional account of the final adventure of Wild West outlaw Butch Cassidy. But he was also a director, writer and dramatist.
Well, I'm a very gentle person myself.
This, a production of his play Fool for Love, staged at the National Theatre in London. He wrote 44 plays, winning the Pulitzer Prize in 1979. Sam Shepard was born in Fort Sheridan, Illinois in 1943. His father was an alcoholic and he had a nomadic childhood before moving to New York when he was 19. It was there he started writing plays, essays, novels, short stories and memoirs. He has been described as one of America's most significant voices, who wrote of what he saw with fearless, timeless honesty.
Sam Shepard, the playwright and actor who's died at the age of 73. Plenty more on the website, bbc.com/news. This is BBC World News. Thanks for watching.
Hello there. The start of August is upon us. Does that mean a big change in the weather? Well, not really. We stick with that mixture of sunshine and showers we've become so used to at the end of July. The shower clouds circulating around an area of low pressure. In fact, there could be some quite heavy showers in places as we go on through Tuesday. Not all places will start off with showers. In fact, across central and eastern parts of England and northern Scotland as well should start off mostly fine and dry. But there'll be some showers around at 8 o'clock in Northern Ireland with some sunny breaks in between. Quite a few showers at this stage for southern Scotland, northwest England. In fact, the showers perhaps ganging up into a longer spell of rain, which could make for a soggy rush hour in the likes of Liverpool and then down into West Wales as well. A few showers across the southwest of England, some spells of sunshine as well. And then through much of the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, we will start off dry with some spells of sunshine. 17 degrees there in Brighton at 8 o'clock in the morning. But watch the map as we go on through the day. The showers, initially mostly concentrated in the west, will become more widespread. Just about anywhere could get a shower. Some places will get shower after shower after shower with some hail and some thunder. Other places will stay dry all day long, most likely across southeast England. That's also where we'll have the highest temperatures, 23 degrees in London, cooler and fresher up towards the northwest. Now, temporarily, high pressure builds in during Tuesday night. That kills off most of the showers. A largely dry start to Wednesday for many, but you can already see another change taking place out west. A band of rain beginning to splash its way in across the southwest of England. The wind's picking up here as well, and that's because our next area of low pressure is sliding its way in from the west by this stage, with a frontal system threatening to bring some pretty heavy bursts of rain and tightly squeezed isobars. Some strong winds. Could see gales for a time on Wednesday morning across the southwest. The rain staggering its way eastwards. It'll never make it to northeast Scotland or eastern England, but that rain across southern counties of England could turn quite heavy later on Wednesday afternoon. Low pressure then sticks with us into Thursday. You can see the way the wind arrows are circulating around the low again. We're back to that mixture of sunshine and showers, fewer showers towards the southeast. That's also where we'll have the highest temperatures. More of the same on Friday, a mixture of sunshine and showers, with most of the showers up to the northwest.
A book can lead us to new worlds and experiences. But how can the words take us back to the ideas that brought it into being? How can the book guide us to the one who gave it shape and character? How can it show us the inspiration? Learn more about the book. Discover the writer who created it. We'll introduce you on Meet the Author, on television, radio and online.
No EU citizen currently in the UK lawfully will be asked to leave at the point the UK leaves the EU.
This is a fair and serious offer. Mr. Juncker, are you getting a clear